Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tank Encyclopedia channel. In our last video, which covered the tank transfers from the West to Ukraine, we made a big error. We overlooked one crucial aspect of the discussion regarding Leopards, Abrams, and Challengers going to Ukraine: media cover, or better said, media cover-up. While everybody, including ourselves, has been laser-focused on covering the capabilities and the importance of this tank transfer, all the other weapons systems that have been pledged at the latest Ramstein Summit have gone almost completely under the radar. We also went after the shiny tanks, and that's understandable. We are the Tank Encyclopedia after all. But the absolute media silence on all the other vehicles that will be sent to face the Russian forces is curious, to say the least. Some of these weapon systems will arguably be more important and quicker to impact the battlefields of the Donbass and Zaporizhia than the 150-odd modern Western tanks that will arrive in Ukraine during the next year or so. Also importantly, while some such weapon systems have previously been sent to Ukraine, they have never been pledged in these kinds of numbers, again showcasing the ramp-up of Western military support. Arguably the most important type of weapons sent to Ukraine is represented by the 150 to 200 new artillery pieces. While some old Estonian D-30 towed howitzers have also been pledged, the majority of these are represented by NATO standard guns, and a good portion of them are self-propelled. We're talking about Caesar-wheeled artillery pieces coming from Denmark and France, Archers from Sweden, tracked AS-90s from the United Kingdom, and M109A6 Paladins coming from the US. Wheeled artillery of Czechoslovak origin has also been pledged, but it is unclear in our sources if these will be Dana II or Zuzana II SPGs. The main difference between the two is that the Dana uses Soviet 152mm ammunition, while the Zuzana fires NATO standard 155. All this again ties into the logistic difficulties encountered by the West in supplying Ukraine with Soviet-style ammunition and spare parts. These pledges seem to be an attempt towards shifting Ukrainian artillery consumption to the more available, at least in the West, 155mm standard. Furthermore, a number of these systems significantly outrange most of the current Russian artillery pieces. The Caesar and the Archer can reach 40 or even 50-kilometer ranges with rocket-assisted projectiles, outranging the most common Gvozdika, Akatsiya, and Msta-S that are commonly fielded by Russian units. The only Russian artillery pieces that can match this are the Koalitsia, which is not yet in service but allegedly was combat tested in Ukraine, the Malka or Old Pion, and the relatively more numerous Msta-SM variants. However, again, the importance also lies in the fact that these vastly outperform the old Soviet origin artillery pieces most Ukrainian units are equipped with in terms of accuracy, range, effectiveness, and ammunition availability. These should give Ukrainian artillery a big leg up in artillery duels with their Russian counterparts and in targeting Russian in-depth military infrastructure, especially over the probable upcoming late spring to summer offensives, but probably even sooner than that. Of course, the same considerations of logistics, training, and maintenance exist for the self-propelled guns as for the tanks, but the big difference is that most of these system types are already in Ukraine. Since there is some of the experience and logistics chains necessary to operate these new weapons, their time to battlefield is likely to be relatively short. Mind you, they're still adding at least 2 brand new types of vehicles. The next essential weapon type that few people talk about is represented by around 10 batteries of Patriot and NASAMS anti-aircraft missiles. We're not talking about 10 launchers, we're talking about 10 batteries which involve multiple launchers, radars, control units, and everything in between. While Ukraine has vocally and repeatedly requested these systems, overtly in order to protect its civilian infrastructure and population from Russian cruise missiles and suicide drone attacks, it is quite probable that their delivery is also linked to a depletion of the Ukrainian stocks of S-300 missiles, which the West cannot replenish. While it is rather improbable that Ukraine has critically depleted its stocks of anti-aircraft ammunition, there is significant concern regarding these, and it is quite probable that new Western systems will be used to replace the S-300 in certain roles, in order to free up more launchers and missiles for the front lines. The transfer of these systems does mean that the Ukraine will have plenty of ammunition to protect its civilian infrastructure and still be able to mostly deny the skies to the Russian Air Force for the foreseeable future. This cannot be overstated, as without its powerful AA protection, the dramatic imbalance in air forces would be catastrophic for both Ukrainian defenses and any offensive plans they might have. 8 Avenger systems are also part of the American aid package, but it is unclear to us what system they're referring to here. Just 8 Humvee-based launchers seem like a drop in the bucket compared to the batteries of Patriots and NASAMS, but hey, every little bit helps in this regard. Next up are almost 200 infantry fighting vehicles, namely Bradleys, Martyrs, and CV-90s. And if you thought the tanks were crazy from a logistical point of view, the IFVs are the entire cuckoo's nest. These share absolutely nothing in common. Not engines, not tracks, not transmissions, and definitely not armaments. The Bradley has a Bushmaster 25mm with tow missiles, the Martyr has a Rheinmetall 20 with Milans, and the CV-90 has a Bofors 40mm. What they do share is design philosophy, but any brigade that will have to operate this pish-posh of IFVs, to speak nothing of BMPs, will have a jolly good time making them work. Of course, these are by far and away superior to the antiquated BMP 1s and 2s that the Ukrainians are still using, and will again represent an important step up for some units. These will also be accompanied by some 300 M113 and FV432 Bulldog-tracked APCs, 100 Stryker-wheeled APCs, and 30 AMX-10RC reconnaissance vehicles to add to the madness. However, there seems to be some purpose emerging from the chaos, as these vehicles, along with the tanks and the self-propelled guns, represent the building blocks needed to equip a couple of Western-style armor brigades to be used in major offensive operations sometime in the medium to distant future. It will be very interesting to see how such a unit will deal with its Russian equivalents, but it is again important to note that building brigades that work coherently with a well-oiled command structure and proper training takes time and effort, a lot of time and effort. Of course, they could just give a 2-week course to some Ukrainian soldiers, patch all these together and send them on their way, but that would be a momentous waste of good equipment, or use them as company-size reinforcements for units that mostly use Soviet-era stuff. Aggregating the Western-supplied equipment in special units with specially trained technicians and maintenance infrastructure does make sense as opposed to distributing them piecemeal as replacements to various units. If the Ukrainians are also to adopt a Western-style doctrine for these units, and how these units will fit in within the general Ukrainian battle plan is beyond our analysis capabilities, but it will definitely be interesting to watch unfold in real time. What is missing from the picture are the support vehicles. While the news after Ramstein said absolutely nothing about this, Janes has recently stated that some Vicent mine-clearing versions will be supplied to Ukraine. Germany has already sent some 15 Bergepanzers, the U.S. has promised some 8 ARVs, and Britain said it would supply its challengers with everything needed. It is crucial that adequate recovery vehicles, bridge layers, and engineering vehicles also be supplied with these heavy vehicles in order to support their deployment and use. There are also a bunch more light vehicles being supplied to Ukraine, which would be very easy to brush off, except there are almost 1,000 of them. These are probably going to be supplied more liberally to various units, as we have already seen MRAPs and light armored vehicles already being used in Ukraine. While it is easy to explain this vehicle maelstrom as being a natural effect of the donation of AFVs from many different countries, it is important to note that this is a microcosm of NATO's own problems with standardization and logistics. While, of course, with larger scale come larger solutions, NATO and the West are having serious problems with standardization, which of course drive up costs in production, research, and development, limit the maximum quality of the final products, complicate the supply of spare parts, and make maintenance and repair facilities incompatible, just to list a few. While total standardization is impossible, given the different doctrines and requirements, The interest in keeping local manufacturers alive, and of course, the egotism of various countries, part and ammunition standardization should become an alliance wide priority. Surprisingly, it is the American F 35 fighter jet that is already pioneering such a standardization, although unintentionally, with a wide range of European countries already buying it and even more expressing interest and intent. If Europe is serious about its defense, standardization should be at the forefront, but good luck getting EU countries to agree on such stuff. Before we sign off, a couple of updates on the previous video. First off, in the meantime, it has been announced that Germany will give its latest Leopard 2A6 variant. No one cares about the 2A7, which was not yet the case before we recorded the video. However, the rest of the Leopards are a hodgepodge of different variants, and it is probable but not guaranteed that these will all see some retrofitting and standardization before being shipped to Ukraine. No one knows as of yet how long this will take. As for the Abrams, it is still not yet clear what variant that will be. Also a note on when they'll arrive in Ukraine. Despite what many have claimed, the Abrams will only be ready next year according to the US, and the Challengers will probably get to Ukraine around May. And this concludes our video. What are your thoughts on the matter? Did we miss anything important? Are there any vehicles that have caught your eye from the list? Let us know in the comments. Thank you to all of our patrons for their support, and until next time, keep us in your sights.